Hey everybody, how are you? I wanted to talk to you about the coronavirus, but more specifically, what you can do to fortify your immune system during this period. What we need to do is we need to be prepared, ultimately. And I think the best preparation we can do is by taking good care of our emotional health. We can do what we can to try to prevent the spread through, for example, limiting our exposure to large groups of people by not going out into places that are heavily populated. We can do what we can to try to reduce the virulence of the disease. But as I was reflecting on this reality, I was thinking, really, this is an issue that needs to be understood through the context of our general health and our well-being. The reality is that this virus is going to have negative effects and possibly deleterious and very serious effects on at-risk populations. And when we reflect on what it means when we say who is at risk, we're thinking about those who have compromised immune systems. For example, those of us who are older, specifically above the age of 80, are at the greatest risk for death from a virus because our immune systems aren't as strong. But we can also think about people who are less healthy. For example, those who are overweight, who smoke cigarettes. And I was thinking really generally about lifestyle factors, nutrition factors, etc., and how I don't think there is being a lot of attention paid to these factors. So the first thing I thought of was, for example, the research on basically the relationship between our negative emotion and our immune system. So as we experience fear and anxiety, as we experience a sense of isolation, loneliness, depression, mental health related conditions, attitudes, psychological attitudes, that these factors actually play an enormous role on whether or not our immune system is, you could say, firing on all cylinders, capable of helping us to fight off a viral infection. So the reality that I have been faced with is the reality of my own attitude. What can I do with the way that I specifically choose to love and relate that will enhance and fortify my immunity? The reality is this, you guys. We are going to die, but we are quite resilient. So what are the ingredients to the recipe of resiliency? Well, the purpose of this video was to highlight the importance of psychological safety and doing the best that we can to hold on and to preserve the sources of emotional regulation in our lives, specifically those interpersonal bonds and those relationships. The capacity to self-regulate is very important to our immune system. And the reality is that our immune system, in many ways, is only as strong as our will to live and our quality of intimate and social and emotional relationships. Social support, I think, is the technical term. And I fear that for those of us who may have history with depression or anxiety, that during a period of quarantine, we will be less able to find social support. So my message to you is reach out to people through media. Use social media the way, well, I would say God intended it. Call people, FaceTime people, make a YouTube video like I'm doing. Form some kind of emotional resonance and connection. And remember, the most important aspect of resonance and connection is reciprocity, okay? When you give, you are going to receive, right, in this process. This can make a very big difference for those of us who are struggling with depression or anxiety. So with that being said, emotional factors are very important. But remember, there are other factors that contribute to that, namely what you eat and how you sleep. So do everything you can to essentially try to avoid processed foods. Cook a meal, appreciate a meal, and it will give back to you in an amazing way. Share your meal. Sit down, take the time. Pray before your meal. Meditate before your meal. Be grateful for the life and the health that you have today. And that gratitude will fortify your immunity. Sleep, and sleep well. That means, and I may be a bit of a hypocrite here because I struggle with this, that means limiting your caffeine later in the evening. Caffeine causes your blood sugar to go up because it increases the release of cortisol. Cortisol is there to protect you. That is your body's really natural response to stress. And what it does is it helps to basically manage the inflammation, manage your body's immunity. So by regulating our cortisol levels through sleeping well, through not being anxious and depressed, through obviously loving and appreciating one another, we are able to regulate the release of our immunological hormones. In this case, we're discussing the role of cortisol, and caffeine can unfortunately cause hyperglycemia, as well as elevated levels of norepinephrine, dopamine, all those stress hormones. So I'm not saying don't drink coffee, but what I'm saying is be weary if you are sleep deprived, to be weary if you are anxious. Take better care of yourself before you introduce something like caffeine because of the effects on cortisol and the stress hormones. Let's all do our best to take care of each other and think about this reality using what we know about the role of mind-body interactions, the role of the lifestyle decisions we make, the role of how we choose to love and relate, the role of how we choose to sleep. All of these factors come into play when we're thinking about how to fortify the immune system. Tell me what you think about this video with a comment, and you can like the video if you want. I appreciate you watching, and I hope to see you soon.